Welcome to my humble painting studio,
Abode.
also known as my bedroom. Okay, so tonight we're going to do a follow-up on last week's demo. This is the piece I did in the demo. This is what I've done to it. Okay, it's got gold leaf paint on the edges, which was sort of an experiment. But that's the carvings, and I dry brushed a little bit of red in the middle before I gold leafed it. So it was interesting. Okay, let's see here. Dry brush painting basics. This is my contact information. So almost any brush will work. Whoops, let me go back here and do this. Softer, more rounded brushes seem to work best. Makeup brushes work really well. So if you've got female people or people using makeup in the house, score their used brushes, clean them, and you can use those. I have this recommended set I've got here on the right. I got it off of Amazon. It wasn't very expensive. It works great. This is what it looks like. There we go. I'm only using these two brushes, which are labeled 7 and 5. These other three, the two bigger ones and a smaller one, I've not used yet. Okay. But that's what that set looks like. And it's very soft. It works great. I have stencil brushes and I have a bunch of other brushes. The stencil brushes don't work very well for this. Some of the softer brushes, like something like this, this works pretty good.
Oh no, Matt, we lost you.
He
Or is it
froze
me?
it.
Matt,
No,
you
he
froze.
He's froze.
Okay, so down on the picture in the lower right corner, what's that?
You were froze. You were froze, Matt, when you were trying to show your brush. I think your share
Okay.
screen is interfering with your regular video.
All right. Well, I got an internet unstable message just a minute here, so maybe that's the issue. It seems to be better. Am I good now?
We don't have a video of you. We just got your
Yeah, but we can
brushes
hear
and
you.
supplies.
All right. Well, I mean, I can do this and put me back up. I took me out. So I'm just showing
okay.
the
Right
document.
On. Right on.
So in the lower right corner is the base paints that I used. The Waverly paint on the left there is from Walmart. It's just basically a flat black thick acrylic paint. The gesso on the white is the gesso I used. I watered it down a little bit with water, and that worked great as a base paint also. Okay, so here some notes and stuff. It'd be useful to have a trash can within reach. I usually have a small glass of water to help clean things up. I make small throwaway paper towels. I cut up larger paper towels into small, like 2-inch by 2-inch squares. And I use little plastic pallets to mix, to put out and mix the paints. So this link is to the plastic pallets. I think you get a clump of 24 of them, which is way too much. So go with friends on them. And then there's the paints. So any questions on this so far?
No, good info, Matt.
Okay. So I'm going to switch to go back to this in a minute, but I'm basically going to talk about the techniques. And I want this screen on the presentation so that we have it. I'm also wearing an old shirt that I've painted on, so don't paint in nice clothes. So
duly noted.
All right, so this is the first 3 points here are the basic steps of how to dry brush. You gently dip the brush into the paint and you wipe it off. Then you use a paper or a paper towel. They also sell these paper palettes at like art stores. Those work great too. And you wipe off the paint. You keep wiping the paint until you can't really see any come off. Then and only then do you put the brush to the work. Okay, so the bottom line is you're building up little tiny amounts of paint slowly, softly, gently, a little bit at a time. Every time I get impatient, I make a mess. Don't do that. More paint can always be added to darken, lighten, or add color. All right. And you can darken paint by adding black. You can lighten it by adding white. And then you can also change in gradients, go from one paint, say red, to another paint, say a blue or a purple, by adding a little bits of paint to one, from one to the other. Okay, any questions on this so far?
No, I wish I would have known about, not wearing a good shirt when you're painting. I wish I would have known that a long time ago.
We always learn that the
So
hard
does
way,
Billy.
and
So
sometimes
does
some of us
Billy.
need to be reminded. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tilt my camera down here and show you where I paint right here on, and here's my water, and here's my little squares of paper towel that I cut up, and I just basically fold them, and then cut until I got like little 2-inch squares. And I use these to clean up, and I make a lot of them because I always run out if I don't. So what I'm going to do, so tonight I turned and carved this piece earlier today. Okay. I got to come in here. Okay. So what this piece is just it's box elder, and it's a simple turned piece. And what I did is I followed the grain here, and I set like a ledge. So wherever the grain was, is I made an indentation. And I don't know if y'all can grab a piece of paper in here. Can you see how I made the indentations, the little steps?
Yes.
Okay. So I did this on both sides. And then on one side, on this side, I just carved it up a little bit. And if you want to see, you know what? Let me do this for a minute. Let me switch back to Zoom and do my share screen and share this. Share. Okay, so this is, whoops, this is what the piece looked like.
Initially.
Yeah, before I painted it. My computer is misbehaving. Hang on, guys. Well, at any rate, stop share.
See
All right.
that part fine, Matt.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry, I couldn't, which was bothering me. So, okay. So, but on one side of that, I carved the little divots, and the other side I carved sort of slants on it. So this side has got the slants, and this side has got the little divots. Okay. And then I came in with the black paint and painted it. All right. So my goal tonight is to use white, and I'm going to start with this green, which is just basic stencil paint from like Michael's or wherever, or Joann's probably is where I get this. And this is a hunter green. It's a fairly dark green. And I'm going to start with this, and I'm going to dry brush that over most of the textures. And then I'm going to add a little bit of white. And this is just Walmart white. And I'm going to add a little bit of white and lighten the paint a little bit to grow it, to make it lighter and do less. Okay, any questions about that so far?
No.
All right, so just shake up the paint. This is the little palettes that I've been using. They make bigger ones. I like the smaller ones. Frankly, I don't ever fill most of the divots. So, okay, so, and I'm going to use this brush because they're not very big. You know what? I'm going to use a smaller one because the textures aren't very big. So I get a little paint, I dip the tip of it in, I wipe it off, and I keep wiping. And I keep wiping until almost none of it comes off. You see that?
Yeah.
And then I am just very lightly, you know what? I need to be able to see what I'm doing. I'm just going to go very lightly go over the tops of this. And I can see it, but you guys probably can't. It's very, very lightly putting a dark green on this. And my goal with what I'm going to do here on both of these sides is I'm going to keep doing this. My goal is to get progressively lighter paint on on the edges of this. So I want most of it to be this dark green. And I'm intentionally not slabbering the dark green on. I want it to be very faint against the black background. So I
So you're
don't know
just
if y'all can.
you're barely catching the high points, the ridges on the embellishing there then, correct?
Exactly right. Now you can see a
Yep.
very
Okay.
slight difference between this one and the top row there. Okay.
Yep, I can see it.
Yep. So that's what you're looking for, is you're looking for that
Okay.
kind of thing. Now, I know that there are people in our audience, probably Ruby's done this a lot and other people. If I'm doing something wrong or there's tips you guys might have, please feel free to jump in, because I don't consider myself an expert at this.
Matt, when I
Yep.
apply the paint like that, what I do is I turn the brush horizontal or parallel to the surface I'm trying to dry brush. And that
Like
way
this.
yeah, that way you can control easier how much is going on the high points.
Okay, thank you.
Matt, I always use a very stiff brush. I don't like using soft. I can control the color better with the stiff brush.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm
I agree with that.
I'm kind of impatient, so I felt that I had better control and was getting the colors on a little bit better, quicker with the softer brush. But I encourage all of you guys to try all this out and test it all out and find out what works best for you. So I did not like and I have a stencil, I have a stiff stencil brush right here. And I did not like how stiff that was and how little control I had over the paint that was going on.
Yeah, the stiff bristle brushes that I use are not round. I stay away from stencil brushes. I
Really?
like
Okay.
I like the flat ones, but
I'll
they're
have to get some glue out and fix one of my flat brushes then.
yeah, I've got a bunch of like those flat bristle brushes. They look similar
Okay.
to the brushes that you have, but they're stiffer. And
Gotcha.
Like a fan brush.
no, that's soft and completely different.
Okay.
Right. Right. That's like for watercolor and oils and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, I'll go get my brushes and show them to you afterwards.
You guys can't really see that very well, but I've got a light coating of dark green on almost all of the surfaces here.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
What do you do if you do accidentally get a little too much paint on your brush and get some of it down in those grooves, the holes, whatever that you've made?
Well, you have black
Can you
paint, so you can come back and repaint it.
repaint it? Okay.
That's what I've done. I don't know what other people do, but I've repainted. So
Yep, that's what I've done is repaint
Okay.
or re-lacquer if you're using black lacquer, which you can make
Yeah,
your own black lacquer by just adding black dye to it.
yeah. And if you use your paintbrush like Ruby was suggesting, you're not going to hit the inside. You're only going to hit the tops.
all right, well, I like what I've got there, so I'm going to
It
go
looks
to the other
good.
side now. Well, I can't hardly see it in the picture, so that's what I'm saying.
It's hard
Now,
to see.
now, now, one
It's
of the things I'm going to try to do here on these ridges is I'm going to try to come across the ridges. I don't want to run parallel to the ridges, because then the bristles will go down and get paint inside the cavity. I want to just come across 90 degrees or perpendicular to across the ridges, if that makes sense. Because I only want paint on the tops of the ridges. That's my goal here. Oh, I like that a lot. Should have done this on the other side. This is a better texture, or I like this texture better, I should say. It's no better. I like it better. And be careful where you put your hands. It was starting to get a little sticky. I didn't get anything on, but I could have.
It's
I
not
have
like
to
it's
wear
burnt.
gloves or I'd have it all over me.
I just did the top row. I don't know if y'all can see that or not, but and if you want more paint, then you just come back and put more paint on it. But the bottom line is that you want to go when you move to your piece, to your work, you don't want to have hardly any visible paint on the brush to start off with. Because you're just putting in a little bit of paint at a time. You're building paint on slowly. So I know this is a lot like watching grass dry or grass grow or paint dry.
Honeybees
Choose your
mate,
choose your metaphor, or golf.
snow hares mating in a snowstorm.
Do people actually watch that? Never mind. The people probably do.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a segment on OnlyFans.
Or a federal grant for a university study.
Oh
Your
yeah,
tax dollars
guaranteed
at work.
that's
Your
happening.
tax dollars at work.
Right.
So one of the
Oh,
things that I was
speaking,
when
we
I
should get
carved
it.
this.
We should get a tax grant for you doing this.
How do you figure?
I'm sure if we applied, we'd be able to get one.
I leave that in your capable hands, Dane.
Never thought about it.
So one of the things that I was doing here when I was carving this side of this is I was doing it with those stump cutter burrs that I showed last week. And I was trying to add a little bit of aberrations to it. And this, you won't be able to see them so much here with this coat, but the next lighter coat, you'll be able to see them a little bit more. But I was trying to add some variations and veins and all kinds, and some funky stuff with that to see what would happen. And you basically just you ever so slowly you're building paint. Now I've seen some people, and I want to say Linda Ferber is one of these people, and some other people who do a fair amount of this dry brushing, and they're using when they use green, they also used a lot of yellows. So I'm happy with this, and I don't know if you guys can see this, but I'm going to show it to you. So there's dark green on all the ridges on this side now. And I'm sure that this side is dry, so you can see it's slightly dark green also. Okay. So that's where I was going with this. So now let's do another shade here and get some white into this. So I put the white in the second container. So this is my green, there's my white. I'm going to get a little mixing stick and I'm going to add some of the white into the green and mix it up to make it lighter, a little more lighter than that. So you can see the dark green here on the outside, and now this green is quite a bit lighter after a little bit white added. Okay, so that's how I'm changing the shades. Off my little mixing stick, get some green paint on my fingers, and that's why you keep the trash can nearby. So now I'm going to do the exact same thing, only I'm not going to go quite as deep into the texture. Should have wiped that off. So parts of this, the edges parts now are starting to get a little lighter green. Can you see that bit here on the end there that I just hit? This part right here. Oops, other side. That right there.
Starting to come through.
So and this is what my goal is, and I don't want to. My goal here is to get the edges of both of these textures, the raised edges, highlighted with the dry brushing. And I'm dry brushing a particular section until I've got the level of color I want, and then I'll move on. And as soon as it stops coming, then I'll go get more paint.
Your piece of paper with all the paint runoffs, you could put a frame on that and probably get a pretty dime for it too, Matt.
I was gonna
I'll
say,
have to,
yeah.
I'll have to consider that. I like the way you guys think.
I mean, it looks better than that Jackson Pollock guy. He makes millions off of his stuff.
Yep.
You can even make the frame. If you need me to, Matt, I can show you how.
That's
So
Yeah,
we're
awesome.
going to
that's
change
good.
you. We're going to change you for your nickname from No Band-Aids Brenda to Frame Queen Brenda. What do you
Right?
think? What do you think?
Nah.
I like. I
I
really
like
like
that too.
Matt. I do too. Huh. Huh.
Don't rename her without her permission, Dean. I know the temptations there.
Oh, I didn't know I needed permission.
He just changed my name. He did.
I knew. I didn't even look. I can't even see my Zoom screen, and I knew what he was doing.
Yeah, Matt knew that laugh.
Oh well.
Hostess with the mostest. I like being able to operate on a laptop. I can't believe I did all this on my cell phone for 4.5 years.
So
Me
I don't know if
neither.
y'all can see that, but I really like how this is shaping up.
Those of us that have taken your place, Dane, have no idea how you did it on your cell phone.
Yeah, I know. I've heard. You guys have let me know.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate it.
No, I really like how this looks, and I don't know if I can show you guys if the color's coming through.
Yeah, it's not
see
fully
some
coming through, but I can definitely appreciate the enthusiasm coming through in your voice.
I
Okay,
can see a
so
little bit of it down at the bottom.
yeah, so I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
oops, no,
on the edges you can see it.
yeah, well that's where it is I haven't gone fully in on the texture. I've only been doing the half that's between the middle of the texture and the ridge, if you know what I mean. So
Right.
that's what I've been doing with this one. So now I'm going to add some more white to my paint and make it a lot lighter. May have to add more white. All right, I want to make this lighter still. Yeah,
So
go
Matt,
ahead, Dean.
would it be advisable to or would it be good to take your green and then your white, mix them on your paper just a little bit at a time?
Well, one of the games that I'm playing here is that I want to get a significant portion of this stuff at a particular hue. Okay.
Okay.
And the reason
Right.
why because I'm going to keep going back to it. So like once I get the hue I
Right.
want, I'm going to keep going back
Got
to it. So I don't want
Okay.
just a little bit. I want,
Yeah, you want to pull. Okay, that makes sense.
I want more than just a little bit. All right, so let's try that.
And does the paint, similar to dye, does the paint dry a darker color than what it looks like when it's initially going on? And then
I
when
do not.
finishes,
I do.
and
I do
then
not think so. I think that this stuff is drying nearly the color that I think it is,
okay,
which is why I'm comfortable with what I'm doing here. All right. So
okay.
there's the color that I now have. Okay.
That's almost what, a teal?
Yeah, I don't know how you would define teal. I never did. I
Looks
think
more
there's
like
more
a,
blue. It's
well,
I call it light green.
Okay.
there you go.
So now what I'm going to try to do is I'm just going to try to hit the edges. A little bit too much paint on there. And I'm going to come back. My final coat on this is going to be mostly white with a little bit of green. Okay. And I'm just going to hit the bare edge of this. So I've got basically what I've done is I've created a gradient in the texture, a gradient of paint on the texture. I do like this, using this on the side of the brush, Ruby. Thank you. That does seem to work pretty good.
Yeah, that looks good.
Yeah, it's really starting to pop. It's still, I mean, it looks a lot better in person than it does what you guys can see. Okay. This is pretty cool. I'm stoked. I like how this is. So if you notice this paint is a little bit sloppy on the piece, I was comfortable doing that because I know I'll be able to come back and sand that off at the end when I'm done with all this.
One suggestion I would make to anyone about to paint a piece would be to put a little bit of finish on some of the wood ahead of time to see what color that changes to, then pick your colors that you're going to put on the painted area so that they match, so to speak.
They contrast well or whatever.
Right.
And don't be afraid. I mean, I've done a fair amount of painting. Ruby's done a lot more than I have, I think. But don't be afraid, if you're at all confused about any of it, to pick up a color wheel and go from there. And use a color wheel to make those kinds of assessments. So now I got a little bit of paint, a little bit of green here from doing the mixing. And I'm just going to mix that up on the white side this time to get a much paler green. Y'all see that? So this is the paint I'm going to go with now. Okay. So, and I do tend to try to clean off the brush between times, just in case. A little bit of water. Just clean off the brush a little bit. So now I got to remember to dip it in the right receptacle here. Who's chirping?
Right. Somebody needs
I
to
don't.
change the battery in their fire alarm.
Yeah, I don't think that's me.
It ain't me.
I know it ain't me.
Hey, you
So-
guys, you could hear that even though I hit the mute?
Yep. Guess so.
I
There
did
it goes
again.
again. That's a fire alarm chirping.
Yep, somebody's battery's
Smoke
out.
alarm. smoke alarm, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it shouldn't go through the mute. Mute is mute, right?
Yeah, I know, right?
It shouldn't. I can't hear it.
Well, I like this, but it's not as bright as I wanted it to be. So, and I don't know if the like I've got some bright LEDs in the overhead light over here, and I don't know if that's washing it out or what.
Can you decrease your light setting on your camera?
How do I do that, Dane?
Click down on your video.
I'm on VMS. Is it in there or is it in Zoom?
It's in Zoom. So click the little settings button for your video.
Is that here? Nope.
And then it'll
Video.
bring up a box and it'll show a little captured box of what the video is looking at.
Just for low light audio, auto, manual.
Manual, and then work, do the slider. Just work on your slider box there. See if you'll get real time feedback with the video screen and the GUI box that popped up on you.
I don't know. Let's try this. I don't know. That's pretty.
Well, you can see the contrast between the black and the green now, the greenish white. Don't know if you did anything, but you can actually see it now. So
Yep.
I thought he was just putting on too much paint. Because now you can see it.
fire alarm, smoke detector is still chirping.
I can't see whose it is.
Yeah, I
Where it's
can't see
coming
who it
from.
is.
There's
All
only
right,
about
so-
5 microphones open.
So it's not me. I've got
Must be Matt.
Huh?
Must be Matt.
I can only hear it in my one ear that has my earbud in. Okay, so anyway, this is how the piece looks now. Okay, and I like it, but I want something more. I want more pizzazz. So I think that what I'm going to do is I am actually going to start adding. I'm gonna take some yellow out, and I've got a crocus yellow here, and I'm going to try and use this, and we'll see how this works. Okay, so you guys good with this? Experimentation on the fly.
Sure.
Brenda?
Sure.
All right. So I'm gonna get
Always repaint it black or turn it off if you don't like it.
Exactly. Yeah, I want to make sure I get my brush cleaned up here, because I don't want the green in this. I just want to do yellow. And then so I used a rag with water on it, and now I'm going to try and get it's still coming off green, but we'll try it now. Okay. All right. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's it. And I'm very, very lightly hitting the tops of things with this. And you see the difference right here?
Yes.
It's just this top row here. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, the final pitch is really going to look good.
Yeah, and every pass you make on this, you add a little bit more color. So if you want more color, you just keep making more passes on it.
Gary wants you to put pink on it.
Tell him no. He can put pink on his own pieces.
You're not
Pink
gonna
could
do
be
pink.
catastrophic. Pink could be catastrophic on this piece, I think, with the greens. That's
said.
just, yeah, that's just slightly obscene, I think.
If you use too many colors, that's the biggest mistake that beginners make when they're painting a piece. And about the only time it's acceptable is when you're painting a rainbow and you go through all the colors in a very specific order. You're better to pick just a few colors that are within the same family.
So this looks a lot cooler in person. So I really like how this yellow added a bunch to it. And it's a sort of a, because it's coming in on top of the green and adding to the green, it's not a green yellow per se. It's a highlight. And I think it's, you know, I like this a lot. So, all right. Yeah, I'm gonna keep going with this on the other side too. So, and I'll take pictures and
Green and
post them.
yellow.
Well, no, this is just yellow, but it's on top of the green. So everything I've done so far is a green variation, right? It's green plus white. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So, but this yellow, I'm just adding a little bit of yellow, and I'm just here right on the edges. Okay, I'm just adding yellow, and it's going on ever so faintly, just on the tops, and it's on top of the green that's already there. So there's some, you know, it's
Get in a different shade of green.
well, think of it as you're adding a transparent layer, okay? And the more passes you make, so if I make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 passes at a specific place, I'm adding yellow at each pass, okay? So I'm adding a little bit of yellow every time I go over a certain section, right? So it becomes more yellow, but there's still green underneath that's sort of shining through, okay?
Okay.
So if you can see that top row has the yellow on it, and it's not, the picture here that I'm seeing is not doing it justice, but that's the process. Is you're adding every time you make a pass on a specific place, you add more of the color that's on your brush. Okay. So I'm only making it like the tops of these ridges is the only place that I'm putting color right now. So I'm not going in at all. I'm angling my brush so I just hit that corner edge. So there's a little bit of spillover on some of the texture. But every time I go over, so I go over a given section 10 or 12 or 15 times or more until I've got the, what I want on it. You know what I mean? So this is kind of an experiment because in general, I'm not a huge fan of greens, but this is a very interesting sort of, so I like this, and I'm probably going to call this a night on this. So I like where this is. I like the textures, and that's basically how you do it, how you do that.
Nice.
So let me try something here while everybody's on. Let me turn off the overhead light and see if that changes the color rendering. Oh, almost spilled my paint.
Ooh.
What we were waiting on. Yeah, it's almost like it's frosted.
It is, and this is more yellow green here than is showing up in the picture, and it's not staggeringly yellow green. It's lightly yellow green, and it's still mostly green with like highlights of yellow. So I really like it a lot, and that's why I say I'm going to call it a night. I don't want to put any more paint on because I like how it is. Questions,
It looks good.
comments? Thank you, Ruby.
I think I got it.
What would you put over that to seal it, Matt?
I spray lacquer
Okay,
on all decorated surfaces. In general, I spray lacquer. So that's my go-to finish on most of this stuff is spray lacquer. I use a rattle can.
mhm.
I've used the Minwax stuff for years, but it's getting hard to find these days because they have disputes with people. So the Varathane lacquers work good. The Deft lacquer works good. I have been using on these pieces. I have been using a matte finish. I think it's a Krylon matte finish. It's a spray matte finish, and it is a lacquer, but it's matte. Okay, so like any of these pieces, like this piece here. Okay, that's got a matte finish on it.
Okay,
All right.
not overpowering. I like that.
Yeah, and this was done in a very similar way. I put a deep red on things, then I put a sort of a red orange on things, a little bit less, not so much to the edges, and then a bright orange, and then highlighted everything with a bright yellow. So it's the same sort of general idea where you're changing the colors and adding a little bit less paint every time so that you see all the colors when they're coming through. So that's the whole general idea. And that's what you're doing on every pass. And I showed how to make gradients there, and I showed how to make the how to lighten up a color and maybe add a color if you want to change it. And I talked about how that's happening. Any other questions on that?
I got a question.
Yeah.
On my piece here, right? With it being a tea light, I'm thinking a solid red on the first, for the solid color, a red, and then highlight it with yellow.
Well, that's entirely up to you. Both
Would that work?
well, if you look
I'm
at
thinking the flame colors, like.
yeah,
The best thing to do there is take a separate piece of wood and make some marks on it and test it out and then see if you like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, I
Okay.
wholeheartedly agree with that. Yeah, test things on the wood, test things on your textures to see what happens. One of the things that I was doing with this piece with the dry brushing is I was aiming at the corners. All right, so whenever I put the paint on, I'm trying to hit the tops of the textures. I'm trying to hit the tops of the textures. I'm trying to hit, what I got it. So I'm just hitting the top. I want the textures to be highlighted, and that's the goal, if that makes sense. So yeah, but Ruby makes what Ruby's saying makes all the sense in the world. Test it out on wood. Now you saw when I did a lot of the carving last week that I was doing I had scrap test pieces I was doing carving on to show everything. Among other things, you find out how the wood carves or how the wood takes the color. And Ruby is exactly right on that too, is that test it on the wood. One of the things I discovered with this piece here, the grain this is a cross grain piece. Okay. So when I was carving down the slope, everything carved perfectly. As soon as I tried to carve up the slope, I got all kinds of tear out and I couldn't fix it until I sanded it. It just the carving tools was just tearing up the wood and you can really see the layers of the wood in there. So pay attention. You know, that's another good reason to use test pieces is to test how your carvings, you know, how the carvings are working and how the wood takes the color. You know, is it going to soak it up? You know, which you don't
Yeah,
in general. If
I've
you if
found
you're trying to
when,
put paint.
when I was carving, I found when I was doing cross grain, it was catching the grain and jumping.
Yes.
The
Yeah, and
tool
that's why
was.
I asked that question that I did about the tools that you were using. Is because
yeah, the rules for carving are the same as the rules for turning on a spindle. You have to carve with the grain.
Grain.
Yep, that's excellent advice. Other questions?
Matt, you want to clue me in there so I can show them what brushes that I've been using?
Ooh. Yeah, let me add you in here, Sue.
Yeah. There we are. Let me move my coffee mug. I use brushes like this. Now, these are bristle brushes.
What's that? What does that mean, Sue?
They're more of a
They're
bristle.
very stiff bristle.
Yes.
Okay.
Give you an idea. By the way, I have dry brushed with that 3 or 4 brush when I want to just highlight a single thing in the middle of something. But yeah, they're relatively inexpensive. I don't like the long ones. If I'm going to do a long one, I'm going to cut it down. The ones that I've been using the most out of that are these. And they're just a stiff bristle. I
And they're
enjoy.
flat. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. They're flat. I'm sorry. They're flat. And the ones that I use a lot, they actually start looking like a fingernail brush because you're actually wearing down the brush. But these brushes are relatively inexpensive.
What was that?
I don't know, but we got some weird stuff going on here.
Mine says loading your whiteboard.
Yeah, Robert Edwards whiteboard. Whatever he hit,
My
it's
goodness. All right. Well, let me see if I can undo this.
I don't seem to have an option to undo it, Dane.
Yeah, you do I.
Oh, wow.
Well, hit stop here. There we go.
There we go.
All right. Now,
Thank you.
what I'm going to show you next, Matt, I'm sure knows about these because he probably did them too. This is from Dixie Biggs' class. He knows.
Oh, yes.
But you can even dry brush line smooth stuff. You just have to know how to hit it with the grain running across it. Okay.
Gotcha.
This one, I don't know if you can see it. I started with a dark blue and then made it a lighter blue before I did them. And then
Yeah, Dixie shows a couple of ways to do that, to carve.
I know he has this. Remember these, Matt?
I do. I'm looking for mine. I'm looking for mine in the background.
All right.
Anyway,
Mm.
that's what I wanted to show you. There are several coats of paint on there. Okay. And it just, I did them all dark brown. Then I started hitting the dark green and then a little bit of yellow green and highlighted it with yellow. There's also orange in there. I don't think you see it, but yeah, these were all clover items. And so, yeah, we were doing this with power carving and different.
Wow.
This is, he knows that this is, just a regular ball and you're burning the wood
Yeah.
without a burner. And if you're going to paint or dye, if you carve it first, your dye's not going to go past those lines. So you can do whatever you want. And then I was just
Zentangle. Yep.
Very cool.
oh yeah, the Centangle's down there. I keep forgetting the name for that. So yeah. But
I have some of the books, so I Zentangling is good fun. I'm gonna
Yes.
do a quick share. I'm gonna do a quick share screen. So there's mine. Look familiar, Sue?
oh yeah, looks very familiar. Yeah,
Mm,
yeah. But you did that leaf on there. That's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a week long. This was a sum total of a week long class at Aramont with Dixie Biggs.
Yeah,
So I don't remember
yeah.
how long ago that was, but it was maybe
It's been a
10 years
while
ago. So.
for me too, but it's stuff you never forget. I sent out a little thing for you to read, but my house, the peaks are wooden, the rest of it is block. And my house is like a bone colored, and the peaks
Okay.
were kind of aqua color,
Yeah.
but I didn't want it that stark. So I dry brushed the peaks with the bone color from the house, and it made the peaks look like they had weathered. It looked
Cool.
real neat, and everybody loves it. So yeah, I just didn't want the stark aqua on my house. I wanted it to look like bluish age. And it came out.
So
Yeah, so-
Ruby's
so-
got,
Hey, Dane,
so Ruby's got something she's wanting to share here.
do you want to highlight me and then it might show up better?
Yeah, I can eliminate everybody else.
Eliminate me.
Okay,
There we go.
on this piece, it's a color. I hope the color's showing up okay. It was first painted a dark brown. Well, first before that happened, basically just took glue and just dabbed it all over the place to create the texture. Then it was painted a dark brown, and then it was dry brushed over the highlights just to hit the top points on the glue to create that effect. On the finial,
It's kind of whitewashed.
back
No.
here better,
I can see it.
and then on the finial, it was painted the same brown. It would have been textured, painted the same brown, and then just slightly sanded to create a different color on the top part of the surface. Now on this piece was a whole different technique. After it was turned, the entire piece was covered with glue and then tissue paper, the kind that you wrap up for presents.
Mm-hmm.
If you take all the old tissue paper from Christmas and keep it, and you squish it up really well so that it's got wrinkles all over the place, then what you do is you lay the wrinkled paper over the surface. When that's dry, this was painted brown, and then it was dry brushed with a brass or a copper color just on to hit the highlights of the paper that was that had been glued on. And it gives you a whole different texture and a different effect.
Very cool.
That is neat.
And this was turned green so that's how I was able to bend these pieces.
Very neat.
Okay?
Hey, can I ask if there's any more questions for me before we move to the next
Yes,
bit?
please, Matt.
You can
Okay.
take me off, Dane.
Will
Thanks,
do.
Ruby.
Good
Good
insight.
job, Matt.
We got you, Matt. Possibly.
Talk, Matt.
I'm here.
Oh, I got him. It's Zoom, folks. It's being
Yeah,
funny.
it's
Taking folks off
misbehaving
on the
tonight.
spotlight.
It's misbehaving tonight. Zoom is, yes. All right. Any other questions for me on anything that I've covered tonight?
I'm good. I think I
All
got
good.
it.
It's been great.
All
I'm
right, well,
good.
like I said-
I learned a lot. Thank you, Matt. There
Yeah,
were some of the
you-
techniques that I was using that coincided with what you were doing, and then a couple different things that I wasn't that I will try, and spot on. I appreciate it.
Okay, good.
What kind of wood was it?
The wood was box elder, but I mean, I've got cherry, I've got silver maple. Anything you carve will work.
Thank you.
especially if you're
Yep.
going to paint it black. Black is going to be
That's
your
right.
base, or whatever your base color is going to be. It doesn't matter what the wood is.
Right. Yeah, if you're painting over it, then, if you're leaving some of the wood, then it matters. If not, then it doesn't.
Right. Yep. Good stuff. Good stuff. All
Thanks,
right.
Matt.
Well, going once, going twice. Anybody else have any more questions for Mr. Matt? If not, it was a hell of a demo. 2-part series. Much appreciated. It's hard to do back to back. Really appreciate it, Matt.
Thank you, you guys.
Great job.
Thank you, Matt.
I enjoyed it.
Thank you very
Outstanding.
much.